A young man sits in a near-empty apartment, phone disconnected, refrigerator bare. He has a screenplay in his hands, worth a fortune, and he is about to refuse the money. This is the story behind I Play Rocky, a new film that reveals the true stakes behind the making of a cinematic legend. Before Sylvester Stallone was Rocky Balboa, he was broke. Not struggling in the romantic sense, truly broke. Rejected by casting directors, overlooked for lead roles, watching other actors get chances he believed belonged to him. He wrote anyway. He wrote a story about a fighter nobody believed in. A man given one shot against odds
And that difference became the center of everything that followed. Studios were willing to pay, substantially, but only on one condition: that an established, bankable star play the lead. For most writers in his position, that would have been the end of the negotiation. Take the money. Watch someone else become the face of your story. Stallone said no. If they want the script, they've got to take me. It was not arrogance. It was conviction.
Every rejection he faced was not just a professional setback. It was a direct threat to the life he was trying to build. He had no leverage, no fallback, no guarantee. Just a script and a decision to hold his ground. This is where the story becomes less about Hollywood and more about human psychology, the point where persistence turns into risk, and risk turns into identity. Most people, faced with financial hardship, would take the safer path. Stallone chose the harder one. Not because he was certain of victory, but because he could not separate himself from the story he had written. He believed the role was his to lose. According to the film's official synopsis, this is a story about a man who wasn't just meant to write Rocky, he was meant to be Rocky Balboa. That single sentence reframes the entire narrative. This isn't a film about a lucky break. It's about identity fused with ambition. A man refusing to let go of the one thing he believed defined him. The trailer captures this tension visually, building toward one of the most iconic images in film history, the recreation of Stallone's run up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. But before that moment could exist on screen, it had to exist as a decision, a refusal, a gamble made in private, long before any audience was watching. That gamble worked. Rocky was released in 1976, and its impact was immense.
Rocky's success didn't end with one film. It launched a franchise that would span decades, eventually giving rise to the Creed films, a legacy built on a decision made by a man with almost nothing to lose and everything to prove. Nearly 50 years later, I Play Rocky returns to that origin point, not to celebrate the fame that followed, but to examine the pressure, uncertainty, and self-belief that came before it. Director Peter Farrelly has described the project not as a traditional biopic, but as a study of resilience, a film about the cost of holding on to conviction when every external force suggests surrender. That distinction is important. This isn't a story about talent alone. Plenty of talented people never get their moment. It's a story about the willingness to risk everything on a single unproven belief and the discipline to hold that position under pressure. Stallone didn't know Rocky.
All he knew in that moment of decision was that he could not accept success on someone else's terms. I Play Rocky is scheduled to arrive in theaters on October 30th, 2026. Nearly 50 years after Rocky first introduced audiences to a story about defying impossible odds. Now, that story returns, refocused not on the fight in the ring, but the fight that came before it. The one fought in offices, negotiations, and moments of financial desperation, where a single decision would determine everything that followed. The film asks audiences to consider a simple, uncomfortable question. How many people, faced with the same offer, would have taken the money? And how many are willing to bet everything, with no guarantee of victory, on the belief